All right. Welcome back, everyone. No alcohol this time, so sorry, Jason. I'm here with Jason Fuhrman. How you doing, man? Doing
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me.
on a terrible mic aside. I'm doing pretty good. Um. So yeah, we were going to do a part two on our pros, but we were like, yeah, we should probably get the reader's perspective. That shouldn't be too hard. It's been moving like a snail. We can't
It's
find
it's a
anybody.
challenge. I think it's going to be a challenging discussion because
We
talking
can't find
about
anybody.
well, I mean, just talking about books that we haven't read potentially to a reader who has read these, like what they view as good prose. It's difficult. It's not like we get art where we can just pop up a piece of art. We got to actually parse
Yeah,
through some stuff.
yeah, yeah. So I thought, hey, Jason, we tend to talk a lot about themes. So let's talk about that. So it's bros talking theme, I guess.
Doesn't
That
rhyme.
doesn't that
Doesn't
doesn't
rhyme.
rhyme as well, but um,
We'll think of something.
yeah, no, it's good stuff. But yeah, you've joined me today. We're gonna talk about themes. You and your trusty infinite jest. I'm sorry, I can't help but bring it up every time.
Right
Yeah.
here, the book I have never read. But I have it on my shelf so people think I know what I'm talking about.
What's that other one you have right next? I think that's Hummingbird Salamander. What's next to Hummingbird Salamander?
The Profit Margin by Adam Skelter.
Oh, I don't think I've
He's
heard of
a
that.
fantastic story analyst, screenwriter guy. I actually need to read that. But he kind of vanished from YouTube. He had a really great channel full of video essays on storytelling, and yeah, I don't know what happened to him.
Oh yeah, I actually had a channel I wanted you to check out, but I'll give it to you later. But yeah, we're talking about themes today because it's something that I think in storytelling is kind of a weird subject. At least to me, it is because when I write this is actually that's a question for later, so I won't go too much into that. But like I do think about it a lot when I read, but when I write, it's kind of harder. So I don't know what you think. Like, what do you think about themes, real quick?
What do I think about theme?
Yeah.
Well, I think theme is extremely important.
Well, yeah,
I
I
think
think
that
that, but I don't know. I
it's
guess
it's
we'll.
just yeah, theme for me is just like it's the constant through the story, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's almost like the invisible thread that the character in the plot sort of rides along, right? And if it falls off that thread, then there's potentially something wrong with the trajectory of the story, I guess. Depending on who you ask, but that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. No, it's weird because well, yeah, I'd agree. It's the thing that holds the story together, I guess.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna be talking about that today. So that'll be fun. I thought, what's
Yeah,
another subject we writers can
theme.
talk about? Theme. So
Theme. I think it's something that a lot of writers don't think about, especially newer writers. And I think it's one of the questions we're going to talk about, but it's always been, do you think of your theme first as part of the outline and the characterization while you're building these characters, or is it something that just reveals itself as you kind of progress through the story?
yeah, indeed. So yeah, me and Jason here this time. We came up with some questions. I'm like, hey, Jason, I kind of feel bad for leaving you out of the questions on the last one.
Oh, no
You want to
worries. I
you want
think
to
it's the
contribute
questions help
some? And
guide
you're
the
like,
conversation. Otherwise, we're going to keep running in circles. So,
yeah. So that's yeah. So yeah, he gave me some questions that were very helpful, and I was just like, dang it. Anyway, so let's. I guess we should just get into this.
let's get into
Enough
it.
teasing. So I guess the first question I have here today is, well, very deep question. It is, what are themes? Which was
What
kind
are
of,
themes?
which I was kind of thinking about how I should write it. Is it saying what is theme, or what are themes? Oh, thank you, cat.
Yeah, what is theme or what are themes? And you can have.
I don't think there's a wrong way to do it, but it was just kind of throwing me for a loop there for a minute.
So what's your I'll let you go first. What's your answer?
I would say is the main idea of the story. Like,
Yeah, I would say
it's
I
the
would say
idea
so.
you
I would
want to
say.
explore in the story. You
Yep.
know,
That's a succinct way to put it for sure. Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
it's kind of my way I describe it. Because you always hear these like poetic words like thematic depth, and I'm always like, oh man.
Yeah, no, I think that's what it is. It's as simple as that. It's like an idea you're trying to explore through characters and plot.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a set of ideas. There could be more than one. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's yeah, it's a good way to describe it. It's it's weird because like mm, I've started thinking more about themes. As you might chuckle at this, but I don't know, because I've just stopped like wondering what I want in storytelling. At the end of the day, it's just
Really?
well, not really, but it's just kind of like it's like I don't really know anymore. I guess I don't know.
What I will expand on that. What do you mean?
Like like I'm usually like, all right, story and character, that's pretty good. But then there's a book I'll read, and I'm like, man, the themes in that book were really interesting, or something
Mm.
like that. Now, not always. There's some books that kind of get too much into the themes. Devil takes you home. um, but yeah, no, it's weird. It's weird how it works. That's just I don't know.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, I think that I agree with you where I don't like it when I'm reading a book and the theme jumps out at you. When you feel like it almost starts to feel preachy at that point.
Yeah,
So
there's
it's a
not a lot of
very,
nuance or like
yeah,
interesting commentary about it.
it's a very delicate line because to explore something and be subtle versus being too overt. And um, anyway, we can keep working
I
through the
don't know if
questions if
I
you'd
was about to
like.
say I don't know if subtle is that's a word I used to use, but I'm like I think nuanced is a better word personally. I'm not like I don't think I'm like dissing on you or anything, but I'm just saying
No, no, yeah, nuanced. Yeah, I would agree with that for
yeah.
sure. It's just you got to make sure to not make your theme, your idea, just too on the surface.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a lot of books I don't like do that. So yeah,
Can you
like
name one that you come? Oh, I guess the one you coughed.
well, one
You coughed
I
earlier.
might have mentioned earlier. I don't want to get it actually, because in all honesty, but there are some books that can be kind of hard to decipher what their themes are. Excuse me. Just ate. Um,
What was for dinner?
I had mac and cheese. I just made some macaroni.
Oh,
So yeah. Going that college student route. But
yeah, sounds like it.
yeah, no, but sometimes themes are kind of hard to pick up because like there are some books that just throw a shitload of themes at you. And then there's some books where it's almost like a theme isn't always apparent, if that makes sense. I don't know if you've ever read a book like that, but
Well, let me ask you this: when you're reading, are you looking for theme?
well, not not always, unless it like really jumps out at me, like oh this is what because it's because theme. It's kind of like you said earlier. It's very constant in the story, so it has to be apparent in some way where you're like oh this is what they're doing, or oh this is what they're trying to say, right?
Hmm.
Like how Last of Us is about love and connections that we make with other people, and or another post-apocalyptic story, The Road's about like trying to find hope in a increasingly hopeless situation. Uh,
Well, I only ask because I would. It seems to me in the conversations we've had that you do look for theme.
yes, no, I mean yes, I do. Yeah, I've I've
The
realized
vor
that
the vor really are when we read the vor together, that really stood out to me. Because
Yeah,
I remember way early on, like maybe even chapter one, in fact, you were already dropping theme bombs. So
yeah,
that's why I wanted to ask the question because we
yeah.
all read for different reasons, and I just it
I
seems that that's important to you, so you try to identify it early on, so maybe it
actually let me back up.
keeps the
Yes,
story.
I do look for themes or what the story's trying to say. I guess that was one of the things. I like I just love mentioning this. When I was reading your book, I'm like, what is he trying to say with this? The guy has a lady like a dog straight out of Blood Meridian in this. So like, what's he saying here?
What did you ever guess what theme I was trying to explore
I
or
remember we
themes?
talked about in our discussion about your book. You were talking about how you like to explore how people sometimes people give greater purpose to things that might just be nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
And I thought, especially towards the end, I thought that was very apparent with that whoever that guy was, and and that like weird um, whatever that was, because it's I don't want to spoil I don't want to spoil that, but you know I'm sure you have themes that you talk about. They just weren't as apparent to me at first.
yeah. Well, like I said, it's something that develops over time for me when I'm writing. I think when I'm reading too, like I don't look for theme when I read. It's just something that kind of when I can't explain it any better than when you're deep into a book or if you finish the book or you've hit a pivotal moment in the book when you feel like the heart of the story has been revealed to you and it kind of just washes over you. That's for me is kind of when theme reveals itself.
Well, I guess that leads nicely to the next question. What should theme's purpose be in a narrative? Which, well, like I said, it's sort of the undercurrent of which the story is constructed.
Yeah.
It's like think of a story like creating a building. Like it's like those first couple floors. I guess you could say. Or I don't know.
I
I
mean,
never
theme
built anything in my life.
I'd say the theme to me, if with a building analogy, it'd be more like the structural element, right? It's
Yeah.
something that is like coursing through every brick, every slab of concrete, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Jason.
I've never built anything either, but hopefully that's hopefully that's a better analogy.
But yeah, no, I agree. It's it's just kind of like you were talking earlier. It's sort of what makes the story. It's what creates the structure of the story.
Holds it together.
Yes, exactly.
I don't want to confuse people by saying structure because when we think of story structure, it might be like the way the plot is constructed. So
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, like I said, there are some books where the theme isn't always apparent, um, like Annihilation, for instance.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I would
I mean,
say
you
for
could
that.
make an. I'm sorry. What were you
No,
saying?
I was gonna say I would say like thematically for that. When I read it the first time, I didn't really grasp it. It was almost like I had to learn more about the author himself, and
Hmm.
then once I learned about him, you could kind of pull the theme from that. It's kind of our, nature is precious, and we abuse it, and it's like this wild, untamed thing that we don't fully understand, and that we're kind of just symbiotic with it, and we should respect it, and because in that book it gets crazy with biological, almost body horror like stuff,
Yeah.
and so I can see what he's trying to say there. Now, unfortunately, Jeff Vandermeer, another reason why this kind of came to me, or like I realized it, is if you read his later books, specifically the one you were talking about
I haven't read that
earlier,
one yet.
Hummingbird Salamander, that is on the nose as a motherfucker. So you can tell there's no like metaphor, right? I feel like the Southern Reach, there's a lot of metaphor to it. This
They
is
talk
like
about it with nuance at least, or is it just
yeah, yeah. Well, no, no. This one at least it's literally about a a woman, a detective who is investigating uh, environmental terrorists. So it's what I mean is like it's literally like environmental terrorism. We know, or maybe you don't know, but anyone who's going to watch this and doesn't know, Jeff Vandermeer is incredibly active in the conservation of the environment. So it's
Oh
very
yeah,
important to him.
I follow him on Twitter.
Yeah. So you see all the raccoon posts.
No, yeah, he was very sad about a raccoon that died recently. So
Yeah.
maybe that was on his Instagram. I don't remember. Or sorry, not Twitter anymore. X. Thanks, Elon.
X.
Whoever thought that was a good idea. Anyway, yeah, no, I get that. It is sort of that like nature theme, but I kind of got that sort of like Lovecraftian, like kind of
Yeah.
people venturing, and it's about kind of our tendency to rush into things without really considering, what could happen?
hmm
Because there's all
We're
the
we're a species that is very guilty of that often.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we make a nuke and then we're going, oh man, we created this weapon that could destroy the world. Let's make more. You know, it's just it's kind of like that, except it's this
Yeah.
weird alien zone that I don't know.
hmm
It was weird because I know the movie and the book are very different, but like when I read the book again, like a few years ago, like I thought of the movie.
What do you mean you pictured the people in the roles, or do you mean like
No,
the
because
plot?
they look way different than they do in the movie. I mean just the zone, or
Oh, I see.
they don't call it the Shimmer, they call it Area X. I don't know why they
hmm
just call it Area X, but whatever. Um, but yeah, it's just kind of I imagined that when I was reading through the story. The zone, really, not really the ladies. The ladies are described as very different. Like the main character is Asian, I think,
Yeah.
and like
Or half
in the
Asian or
movie
something.
it's
Yeah.
Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
um, I guess we already kind of talked about this a little bit, but do books need theme? Why or why not?
I guess we didn't really. So what do you think?
Oh, well, my knee jerk reaction is yes, but I don't know.
Why?
Well, why? Because we're all interested in ideas, and I mean, rather consciously or not, you're going to explore ideas you're interested in stories you write, or
Yeah.
or whatever you make. Rather it be
Well,
movies or comics or books or video games.
yeah, here's a question for you. Something like Jack Reacher, like that class of novel.
Oh
Like I
yeah,
wonder, I've never read, well, I think I tried to read the first one. I'm like, I'm just not, it's not in my style. Um, I don't know that he's really thinking about theme when he writes that kind of stuff. It's more like cool action. Maybe there's a theme overarching the entire series or the character. Maybe there's a thematic element to the character, but
I was gonna
novel
say
by
like
novel,
it's
I don't know.
I read a Jack Reacher novel a long time ago. It was the one they made the movie with Tom Cruise a few years ago. I read the book that inspired that movie. I remember thinking it was pretty good, but yeah, no. I mean, I don't know. You could maybe make a story. I mean, I think if I remember, when Cormac McCarthy was writing The Road, he wasn't really thinking of any theme in particular. It just kind of,
Yeah. Well,
it,
I mean, I
from
don't think a
how
lot of
he
people
put it,
do.
it kind of flowed out. Yeah, it just kind
Right.
of
I
poured
mean,
out.
well, Cormac McCarthy, yeah, he's one. I bet he never thinks about characterization or plot or structure or any. I think he just goes and he's like, the muse will take me where I need to go. He just seems like that kind of guy,
So you think
you
he's a
know.
gardener?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I really would be surprised if he gave two shits about character development or having a flaw. I think all of those things exist in his novels. His structures are kind of really odd, which again makes me think he doesn't really think about it. He's more about the idea. Um, but for me, as far as do I think books need a theme, I don't think they necessarily need to, but I think it's just going to enhance the experience. I think it's just one of that. It's like that the secret sauce that really will elevate the story a little bit more. It'll make it feel more like I don't know. It's just gonna have more weight. I feel like because, but yeah, you could write a book and not have a theme. You could just
Yeah, no,
write a fun
it's
story, I guess.
yeah, no, it's it's weird how it works because with theme, it's not. It's one of those things that it's like you say, it can enhance a story, but do you necessarily need it? I'm sure there's arguments that could go either way. I'm sure.
Hmm.
I'm not
Like
really.
Sherlock Holmes stories I've read, I don't really know that there's much theme per story.
Well,
It's
yeah,
more
those were
like
like. Well, yeah, those were kind of. I don't want to say they were pulpy because there is pulp with themes in them, but I don't know. But yeah, I would agree. I don't know if Conan Doyle was thinking about that when he was writing Sherlock Holmes.
yeah, he seemed to be much more interested about the character and the intricacy of the mystery,
Yeah.
like creating a compelling mystery. So I don't know, maybe there's a lot of mystery. I'm probably talking, out my ass, but because I don't read a lot of actual mysteries, but I would think maybe that's a genre that doesn't have a lot of theme because its
Well,
its its goal is not to its goal is to provide an interesting thing to think about for the reader to try to unravel, to try to
Well, I mean,
solve.
it depends. I mean, if you look at noir, you can find themes in there. You
Well, I'm
know,
thinking more like Agatha Christie or
oh,
like
Agatha
cozy
Christie.
mysteries, or
I've
that's why I brought up Sherlock Holmes.
yeah, it's funny. I have talked with people. I'm not a big like when I read like crime stuff. I like Sherlock Holmes or like noir stuff. Now Agatha Christie is fine. I don't have any problems with their style, but it's one of those not for me because everyone's just kind of sitting around and like, oh dear, there's been a murder. Oh,
Yeah.
not interested in that. Have you seen those? Have you little side tangent? Have you seen those trailers? The Kenneth Branagh, uh, that Hercule Poirot or whatever the hell that guy's name is. He
Oh
has that
yeah, yeah,
ridiculous mustache. I'm just like, oh
yeah,
my
yeah,
god,
yeah,
hurts my brain.
yeah, yeah. I think it depends on the goal of the story. Like in genre fiction in particular, might have different goals, and therefore theme is less important or even less needed.
Yeah, I mean, well, the point I was getting at is I know there have been kind of arguments about discussion about like class and stuff like Agatha Christie. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
you
yeah.
could say that.
It could be exploring theme through like just commentary on the class system. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, if we probably asked Agatha Christie if she were still alive, she'd probably be like, "What are you talking about?" But
You might surprise us, Bretton. You never know.
or well, maybe she'll go like, "Oh yes, that was exactly the idea," or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, no themes. I mean, it's funny because it's like when this is kind of going to a question we're having later, so I don't really want to spoil it. But do books need theme? Well, like I said, my knee jerk reaction is sort of yes. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, eh, it's kind of a complicated subject.
Yeah. I'm just gonna keep my answer simple. I don't think so, but I think it's just gonna enhance the story.
Yeah, that leads. You're you're a smart man, Jason. That leads to our next question. How does themes enhance a novel? Now, I think this could be rich for
Ho, ho,
discussion.
ho, ho, ho. Dang. How does
um,
theme enhance a novel?
well, I mean, I should put it this way. I think themes are because you know this very well about me. I like to think about what I'm reading, and think about what it's trying to say. I'm really interested in that, and I think that's how theme can enhance a novel. I'm not saying it always does this. I mean, there's some that handle it very sloppily. Uh, yeah, Yeah,
Well, I think how it
it
enhances
gives
a
you more
novel.
meat to think about. I think
Yeah,
story
yeah. I
does.
think the way it enhances a novel is it can provide a consistency that might not be there otherwise, unless you're a careful writer. It allows you to kind of once you have a theme and you look back at what the character is doing, what their actions are, how the story began, how it ended. You can look at that and say, is this consistent with the theme? If you've identified it at that point. And if it's not, then maybe you're talking about another theme, or maybe that it's going to influence the plot. And so I think that's, to me, I look at it as almost like a tool it's almost
Mm,
like another structural element, honestly. It's
yeah.
almost like a plot line, like an outline, because it allows you to examine the events of the story, particularly through the protagonist or protagonists, and make sure that it's solidified there. That everything is consistent.
Yeah.
Because we talk about character consistency a lot. Like sometimes
Mm.
I'm sure you've watched a movie or read a book, and you're like, what? Why did this person do this? Makes no sense. This is not
Yeah.
consistent with who they are, you know?
Yeah. No, it's a lot. It's a lot harder than what people would think. But yeah, no. How does theme enhance a story? I think theme enhances a story by um. it enhances a story by giving you like meat to think about by the time story's over. Let's put it that
Not
way.
the edible kind,
Not the edible
metaphorical
kind.
meat.
Yes.
Metaphorical meat.
Yes.
Hey, that's a t-shirt. We should create some writing t-shirts.
Yeah. Yeah, we should.
Metaphorical meat.
Yeah,
I like
on one
that.
of the podcasts I run, I'm always joking with my co-host. I'm like, God, we gotta make merch at some point. Because some of just the
I
repeated
know.
phrases we say, and yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's kind of what I think theme does for a novel, and
Mm-hmm.
you do notice as stories go along, or if you read a similar author from time to time, you sort of notice a pattern. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily a bad thing. We all have
No.
ideas we're interested in.
Oh yeah. Every Jeff Vandermeer novel seems to be going deeper and deeper into his environmental thematic.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that man
His
loves. He's
his
called the Weird Thoreau for a reason.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, I think
I don't know if you've read
yeah, I
Waldo,
think that's
but
a good I think meat, metaphorical meat is a great answer. Um, yeah, I just feel like, if you read a book or watch a movie and it feels a little light, like you're like, huh, I mean, it was all right. I think that, it'll provide more substance to it. It really
yeah,
aids in that way. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I know we kind of. I don't want to say we bicker about theme a lot, but we have disagreements about theme.
Oh, you and I?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I think that's the beautiful thing about theme is that it creates conversation because what
yeah,
you get out
exactly.
of a novel and
That's
what I
actually
get out of a
perfect.
novel.
How a theme enhances a novel gets people talking about it.
Yeah,
Look at
exactly.
that,
Here we are
Jason.
making a video.
Look at that, Jason.
Look at that.
You walked into that one. But yeah, no, it's because it's like we both kind of have different opinions. Because I'm like, oh, or how are these characters acting? How is the story moving along? Is it consistent? What are the themes they're trying to say? Or, that's what I
Hmm.
look for when I read. I know you're a bit different.
We're pulling it out of you. See, I
Yeah.
called it. I knew you looked for
Yeah.
theme. But in the beginning, if you guys rewind the video back, if you go back to the beginning, you'll see him like, nah, I don't think I look for theme. And then
Yeah,
here we
I
are.
should I should back up and say, um, my brain is mush. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yes, I do look for themes. So yeah,
Mac and cheese brain. It's okay.
yeah, it's all right. But yes, that's exactly how theme can enhance a novel. Gets people talking about it. And there's
That's one way. Yeah.
yeah, or well, that's one way. Of course, there's other ways I'm probably not thinking of at the moment. Like, let's see, it gives you like it give or well, actually, a good theme can enhance the way like you look at the world around you because it's kind
Yeah.
of what I think storytelling should do.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's one of the reasons why I love reading is you get to the end of the book and I always find it fascinating because reading is a very solitary activity. You're not reading the same book side by side with somebody else, like you're a movie, like you're watching a movie. And so you read this book, and then it has this, like, possibly, hopefully, profound impact on you in some way. And like you said, it gets you to think about the world, your decisions, your future decisions, um, people around you. Yeah, it's great. That's why I think fiction can be so powerful,
Yeah,
even
I
though
mean,
it's fake.
yeah, no, it's easy to do theme wrong if you because
Oh
you,
yeah,
but you know,
I can talk about books that did theme wrong,
that did it
or
dirty,
well, badly in my
that
opinion.
that did it really dirty, in your opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Under the Skin would be a book. Not sure if you've seen the film, but I
Oh, I
love the
love the
movie
movie. I
starring
love it.
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, that's another
Fantastic
one where
movie.
the theme is interesting in that because the characterization's a little it's not the main focus of the movie. I'll put it that way. You get
I
that
would say I would say the characterization is the main focus of the movie.
oh, no, that's
But
interesting.
the theme there. Okay, so the book, it's almost like Annihilation the novel and Annihilation the movie,
Mm,
although even more different because
mm,
the same premise, the book and the movie, but very different, a very different character exploration. Like I felt
well,
like, you know how in the movie there was kind of this weird,
well, let me
she'd
let me
lure
back
these
up. There is
guys.
there is characterization in the movie, particularly with the
Yeah, of
female
course.
alien lady.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
So yeah,
Yeah,
because I'm like
because
yes,
she,
because it's about her
well, yeah,
discovering what
she,
humanity is.
perfect. Yes, that's exactly it. And she wants to be part of this humanity, but she
Exactly.
can't because she's not. She's an alien. Spoilers. Sorry, everybody who hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but
I think after the scene when she like gets to like weird oil, I think that probably gives it away.
yeah, yeah. But
Freaking love that
the
movie though. It's great.
yeah, there was other thematic. So in the actual novel, they focused a lot more on. You remember when she would lure these guys back to her spaceship or whatever it was, and
Yeah.
they
Mm-hmm.
dissolve and turn into food.
Yeah.
So that was the entire premise of the novel. So she was sent to Earth to, like, lure humans away. They gave her this, like, extensive cosmetic surgery. The aliens were actually kind of more like quadrupeds, so four legs and not. So she was all twisted and torn up inside this cosmetically crafted,
Oh
skin
God.
under the skin. And anyway, so same premise though. She would lure these guys, and then they would be slaughtered. But they were kind of kept in. It wasn't like this weird mystical, hey, let me hypnotize you while you walk through the floor thing, which was great in the movie. It was more like we're in literal pens, right? So it was
Mm.
and it got very, very deep into that. So to me, it really started to veer in the, hey, we should all be vegan kind of thing, like animal rights and stuff, to a ridiculous degree. And
they're
that's
really putting it thick, huh? Because
yeah, and
in
that's
the
kind of
movie
what really
it's
that bothered me because like I don't mind if that theme's in there, right? But it's like it was just over hammered, 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 hammered. Whereas, like you said, the film was more thematically about, discovering humanity, right? She's an
mm-hmm.
alien and she discovers the beauty of humanity and then
And the
wants to be a human,
ugliness
but she
too.
can't.
Don't forget the
So
ugliness. She
yeah,
the
it's a
ugliness too.
tragedy. It's a tragedy, and so the book, however, very different and unfortunate, and I was utterly disappointed
Well, that
because
sucks. I was wanting to
I love
read
the
that
film.
book.
I love the film.
Hey,
Yeah. Well,
there
hey,
is that.
give it a shot and see. Maybe you disagree with me, but
We'll see. Yeah,
yeah, I just give it
but
a go.
it's funny you bring that up because that reminds me of another book I think you covered on. Isn't it Tender is the Flesh?
Yeah,
I've been wanting to read. You kind of turned me on to get to want to read that book at some point. So
it's a great one. I actually picked up her new collection of short stories
yeah,
recently. I'm gonna
maybe
check
I'll
out
pick it
too.
up in October because I've heard it's like a
There you
horror book
go.
kind
Yeah,
of. I don't know.
yeah. I would say I would love to have a discussion with you about that book because
Oh yeah,
I
heard
I,
it
I watched the
gets
video.
heard it gets
Yeah, I
spicy.
watched the video. It gets what?
Heard it gets heard it gets pretty I said spicy, but that's the wrong word. Heard it gets pretty
Uh,
messed up.
I mean, it gets spicy too, but it gets messed
Oh.
up. It's very messed up. But I remember watching the Better Than Food book reviews guy, and he was kind of just saying it's like crap. Like, oh, this is BS. This is like,
Oh, I
and I was
like
like,
better than
man,
food.
I think that guy's up his own ass too much because if it's not, if it wasn't written
That's
like 50
funny.
plus years ago, it's garbage.
That's
Pretty much.
funny.
He's of that mindset, I think, and I
It's
think
kind
he
of funny.
doesn't
You
give.
kind of you sometimes kind of remind me of Cliff. Not really in like the you have that kind of low key kind of not really that like I wouldn't say you're like up your own ass or anything, but it's like you're kind of both low key and you're like, yeah, man, books or
I think the
whatever.
difference between me and Cliff is that, or Clifford Lee Sargent, is I don't fucking call myself by my first, middle, and last name. So strike one on that motherfucker. Um, if you want to call yourself if you want to appear pretentious, call yourself by your first, middle, and last name on your video. Okay, that's all you got to do. But anyway, I love the guy for the most part, but he's a little pretentious. I feel like he doesn't give enough credit to modern authors because he's so stuck in the past. And I know I'm totally derailing the conversation, but I had
No,
to say
this
it.
is great.
No, he's a good guy. I think he's so deluded into thinking like literature only exists in the past and like it's
Yeah,
rare. Although
no.
he did love The Devil All the Time, which is a modern novel by Donald Ray Pollock. But
Yeah, I was actually going to sleep one night. And I'm like, I'll listen to this. See what he just as long as he doesn't
yeah,
like spoil it. And he did, and I don't. For the most part, he didn't. So
yeah.
it's another one.
But anyway, I don't know what we were talking about. Oh yeah, Under the Skin. So disappointing for me personally, but
That sucks.
it is what it is.
But
It is what it is.
I'll check it out at some point because, and there are some, and again, kind of another tangent, but there are the movies sometimes that are actually better than the book. Don't assassinate me, people who are fans of the books. For like my big example, I know yours is probably the freaking dog. Anyway, um, ignoring that.
They're already pissed. The readers of that book are
Oh
dogs
God.
and they're angry.
Yeah, no, he's mad. I know, like, I'm sure your first that comes to mind is The Shining, because you're kind of like, oh yeah, Shining, whatever. The movie, though, like, for me, that's Roadside Picnic and Stalker. Like, I remember I read Roadside
Yeah,
Picnic, and I liked it. I thought it was a solid book, but I'm like, just not
I'd
it's
agree.
not the movie.
I no, I'd agree. Yeah, it
It's
didn't
just
have
not the
the
movie. And it
yeah, it
sucked, because I
doesn't
was like,
have
man,
the atmosphere. Yeah, it doesn't have the atmosphere at
it's
all.
because it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Even though I was envisioning the exact same atmosphere from the movie. Even though it's supposed to be in like North America, I'm like, yeah, it's literally the same place from the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know. Movies like just compelled me more. That should be another conversation. Movie versus book adaptations at some point.
Yeah, I know Ricky on my Discord, he suggested doing a video series about that.
Yeah,
And I think it's a cool thing. I don't know. It seems like it'd be a ton of work to do, but um we'll see.
but I'm gonna cut it around back to our theme discussion
Yeah.
because it's like I found the themes in Stalker and how the character because I'm always talking about character or theme through character that interests me, right? Or we see the themes of the story come full circle through the character because it's like
Yeah.
when you have that like marriage of theme and character, I'm just like it's tintillating.
I think it's what makes or part of what makes a great book is seeing the journey of the character, but then also that that journey is reinforcing the theme. It's essentially creating the theme, you know,
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
And I mean, I know Stalker has been discussed and debated amongst film snobs over the years, but I mean, if you like the book and the movie have very different themes. Well, they're kind of similar, but they approach it in different ways. Like, Stalker is more about desire. Like, what are you willing to do to get
Hmm.
what you want, and how that reflects back on the human beings. While the book is more about like, oh, here's this weird world we're in now, and they go inside, and there is that desire theme in there a little bit, but it's not as pronounced as in the movie. I don't know if you would agree with me, but
It's been a long time. I read it a long, long, long time
Yeah, no,
ago.
I'm going off my read from a few years ago.
I got it
So,
right here. I got
oh,
an
there you go.
old paperback. I actually had to buy this. Like this wasn't even available in I think I had to get it off Abe Book, some weird side site. Like
Some
Amazon
shit,
didn't have it.
some shady
I
site.
couldn't order it. Yeah, I couldn't order it anywhere. And so I got it there, but now it's widely available. So, but yeah, I picked this up because after watching Stalker, I was like, dude, I'm obsessed. Like I would say like that's probably why I like Vandermeer so much and Lovecraft so much. It's like it's just that weird, mysterious, unknown crossing this boundary into some strange. It's just I'm like it gets me in the right spots.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. It's that kind of weird, mysterious. Here's this place you've never seen before. Oh. And what's creepy about like Roadside Picnic is it kind of depicts this apocalyptic wasteland in Stalker 2, and then Chernobyl happens like 10 years later.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
freaky, man. Or I think it is.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because like when was this? When was this? Let me look at it up. When it was written, I think it was like the 70s, right?
Well, book I think yeah 70, and the movie's like 79, I think.
Yeah, 1977.
Oh my god.
I know it's 1 year older than me. Can you believe that?
Ha ha. Actually, you might
See, I was built. I was born for this stuff.
be. I guess this is more. I guess that'll go to our next question, which is sort of a question for me and you. When you write, do you think of theme first, or does it reveal to you as you write?
I
Um,
would say reveals for me personally.
yeah, I'd say the other. I'd say that's yeah, because often I think of like idea and story and character first. But there are sometimes I'll have an idea and I'm like, oh yeah, I think this could be an interesting like I could explore some themes and stuff in this. So it depends really on my end, but usually no.
Yeah, yeah. I
Which
think
makes me feel like a
it's
bad. Which makes me feel like a bad writer. I not any more than I already feel like I am a bad writer, but it is what it is.
well, I think once you determine the arc of a character, that's sort of when theme starts to reveal itself. When you see where the character begins and where they end. To me,
Yeah,
that's really like, oh, okay, shit. Not only that, I mean, but their actions too, obviously, like the plot beats. It's all intertwined. That's why I say I'm really terrible about thinking about a book as a beat sheet, as like a black and white outline, like a bullet point list. I'm
oh,
really bad about that. I need to be in the story, and so I think that's why theme has
you
to
have to
reveal
you have
itself
to
to me at
you
some
have to
point.
you have to walk around with your characters for a little bit.
Exactly. I have to. I
Did
have
you
to.
did
It's
you
just how
become one of
I
those? Did you become one of those like weird dog people that was in the song at the end of the world?
the
Did you like
dog
imagine
people.
that? Like, did you imagine that when he's walking her around like a dog, and you're like, hmm. Or
Yeah, I
I
mean,
should.
I
I guess that's a
definitely
kind of cycle. Like, what were you thinking when you wrote that? Because I'm like, so when I saw that, I'm like, yo, that reminds me of Blood Meridian when he's walking that like mentally disabled guy like a dog.
yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know. Like I honestly can't tell you where the motif came from where when he captured the mother and the daughter and
Mm-hmm.
led them on a leash essentially. I mean, there's definite subtext there, but
Yeah, I'm like,
it
is this some
wasn't
more
like
like
a
sexual thing?
no, 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 no. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could see that. It's just like it's one of those things that just kind of materialized in my subconscious and I stuck with it. I just pictured this guy out there, more or less weaponless. I mean, he has a weapon, but a way to keep them tethered to him so they couldn't escape. I don't know, but I'm glad it was something that stood out to you.
Yeah, I know. That was one of the things. I'm like, wow, it's like, that weird
book
dog
two is
imagery.
yeah, book two is far less weird. So it'll
Yeah,
be
I
interesting to
know.
see.
That was one of the things I kind of struggled with because I'm like, what is this? Because you're always, because like you're always talking about like straightforward stories, and you're always griping about, I don't know, you gripe about a lot of things. But and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna read this book. I'm gonna have a good time. And I read this. I'm like, what the hell is this?
What is this garbage?
Well, it's not. It wasn't
No,
bad.
I think you misunderstand me when I say straightforward story. It's not it's it's it's
Well, I
not
didn't
so
say
much
like you're
like
not
plain
like.
plain language or plain, easy to grasp. I, books serve different purposes, right? There's some books like I'm reading this book right now that won the Hugo Award and also won
Oh yeah, I've
some
heard
other
that book's
stuff.
really good. I've seen it talked about on
So
book
this
reviews.
book, I will be shocked as shit if you like it. It is the most poetic, hard to follow book I've ever read. It's extremely difficult to
Really?
follow. And so um,
That's interesting.
it's funny after talking to people about reading my work and stuff, and I'm like, if this won a Hugo, I mean, holy shit. Now it's not bad. I'm only maybe halfway through it, but
Well, isn't that book about
it's
time travel?
yeah, I mean, kinda, yeah. But it's like it's I have to read it very carefully. It's like reading a poem, and you're just like, okay, let me try to process this. Okay,
Well,
let me try to
poetry's kind of
process this.
different from other forms of storytelling because it's kind of like, oh, the language. Well, there are narrative poems out there.
Yeah. But anyway, it gave me hope because I'm like, okay, well, there's some people who said, man, your book was kind of hard to, it was like dreamlike and
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
look, I
foggy. And
promise I didn't
so
dislike the book. It's just
this is,
like I promise I didn't dislike your book. It was just kind of like it's like I said when we talked about it. It was like it kind of smacked me across the face. I'm like, what?
I would, you know what? If I could blurb you and
You
put
can
that on the
blurb
book,
that.
I would totally blurb that because I don't,
In the second
here's one
book, you
thing.
have like blurbs like it felt like it smacked me in the face, Britain.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Hey, that one,
You
I'll
have
take it.
my
I'll take it.
you have my permission. You can use that because that's
All
very
right. Well,
powerful.
I guess once you get famous, then then I can put it on there. But otherwise, I'll be like, who's this guy? Um, I'll just put some okie dude. It
Yeah.
smacked me in the face when I read it.
Yeah, and then I'll be like, what?
Um,
That was
but
blurb.
but I think it's one thing I've learned in my writing journey and my reading journey as well is that not every book is for everybody,
No.
and so that's okay. Like people don't have to like my stuff. I know it's a very niche thing. I'm trying to tell a story in a certain way, and it's honestly for me. I know a lot of times people when they're saying, "Hey, have your reader in mind, have your ideal reader." I'm the guy. Like I'm the reader. Like I'm writing something of all of the great things I've watched and read that have inspired me. I'm trying to create that same feeling in myself when I'm writing something. If other people like it, great. If they don't, that's cool too. But anyway, we're off topic. What were we? What's the theme we were talking about,
Oh
or what
god.
question
Well,
of
we were
theme?
talking about like when like I'll put it this way, like when you were writing a song for the end of the world, or the
Yeah,
thing you're writing now. I read a first chapter of that the other day. Um, like, were there themes you were thinking about when you had it in mind, or is it just something that kind of came
song for the
along?
end of the world.
Yeah, just for
Yeah,
example,
I
because
would
that's the
say
only
it
book
came
of yours
along.
I've read.
It revealed itself. Yeah, it definitely revealed itself over time. It started out as a short story, just for a contest, and then I wanted to turn it into a novel, novella, whatever you want to call it. Um, And yeah, it just kind of over time, it's kind of like I'm sure you've heard this from Stephen King. Stephen King says so he's a pantser. He knows absolutely nothing about his book. He just goes, and once it gets to the end, which is about 120,000 words, after writing, I think it's 2,000 words a day for 3 months, he looks at it all. He's like, how does this connect? How do I connect this? And what he does then is when he sees connections or when he thinks there's connections there, he reinforces those connections. And so I think that's what a lot of times theme is. So once you
Yeah,
get to the end of a book when you're writing it, or you're like, okay, I'm seeing commonalities here. And then what you do is you say, oh shit, this is the theme of the novel. And then where it's weak, you reinforce it. You augment it a little bit. You
yeah. I
amplify
mean,
it.
I'll admit,
So
I'm
it's
writing a novel right now. I'm actually towards the end of my first draft. I'm very excited. But
congratulations, man.
thank you, thank you. 2 chapters and an
It's a
epilogue to go. but I
Wow.
still don't know what the theme of the story is.
That's
Like,
okay. That's okay.
I'm just like human connection, maybe, because it's about because like there's a lot of like I've noticed like there's like cause it's about these two characters and they're like helping each other out in this weird. I don't want to spoil what's going on, of course, but like I'm because I've this isn't something I'm actively thinking about, but like at the back of my head, I'll just be like, so what are you trying to say with this book? And I think about it, and I'm like, I don't know.
That's okay. That's okay. I think that's totally
I
fine,
I
and
would
it's something I
love
struggle with a
to
lot
see
too.
like reviews going like, oh, here's some like do like because I write a lot of reviews on Goodreads. I would love nothing more than to see people just go like, oh, this is what he was trying to say, and then I can just go in there and be like, I did not intend that at all, but I am so glad that you
Yeah.
took the time to really think about it.
Well, I mean, that's another thing. It's like, and I know this is will spiral into an entirely different conversation, but and I think we've talked about it on my Discord server. But does the intention of the author matter? Like once a book is out there and people have these subjective, these individualized experiences, and pull thematic, meanings from those books, are their experiences invalid because it wasn't the intention of the writer? I would say they are. I would say once you put your stuff out there, people are free to experience it however they want,
Yeah, it's not really
regardless of
yours
if,
anymore.
yeah, it's not yours anymore. And I know a lot of people think that's
To
woo woo
quote
or
Macaulay
bullshit or
Culkin, the
whatever. And
great intellectual.
yeah, well, it's like, because a lot of people think the art, whatever these guys were thinking when they wrote this book, like that's it. That's all there is. There's nothing else to be gleaned from this. Whereas I disagree. I think that, we all have subjective experience, and so that's meaningful, right? Why shouldn't that mean anything?
Now I know you're probably gonna roll your eyes at this a little bit because you're a very jaded fan of this franchise. But a good example of this death of the author argument I've seen is in Star Wars because when it comes to like the Jedi, because the Jedi have all these really weird rules about attachments and whatever. Now George Lucas has said that like it was intended to be not a bad thing, but there are people out there who say like it's not really a healthy way to go about things, and it's just been. And now I'm on this site called Quora, and there's a lot of argument about it. So I mean, that has also made. Now the point of that is that it has made me consider a lot about death of the author, or another example, Watchmen with the character of Rorschach. I know there's a lot of people who really connect to that character. And Alan Moore was like, "Well, I kind of meant him to be a crazy nut job, and people like liking this character is kind of disturbing because Alan Moore.
I think it's cool.
I
I
mean,
honestly, even
Alan Moore is a bit of a cantankerous man, from what it seems, but
yeah, Alan Moore is a weird dude. But anytime somebody says
that's a
something
fucking way to
about,
put it.
yeah, anytime somebody says something about something that I've written that I didn't expect, I mean that's exciting for me. Granted, Alan Moore is a very successful writer, so he's probably heard it a billion times. So he's
He's one
like,
of my
eh,
favorites, so I'm not trying to
yeah.
like disres. Now, I mean, I am one of the people who wouldn't say I sympathize with Rorschach because I'm not a crazy right wing nut job beating up people, but I
That
do.
remains to be seen. We don't know what you do outside of YouTube, Brittany.
Well, I do feel sorry for Rorschach. That was my point, and I know. Now, and that has also sparked debate as people are kind of like, "Oh, is he really a good guy?" And there's other people like, "Not really," But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's sort of death of the author, kind of like does the
He's
author's
true.
intention
He's
kind of
true to himself.
die once the book gets out there?
I wouldn't say it dies, but I'd say that it's one interpretation of what the book. I mean, it's the author's interpretation of what they set out to do. But uh, again, like two people hear the same song, they can have very different experiences and feelings of when they listen to it. And so, why is that invalid? I don't see why it is. Doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, though, admittedly, if I would if I could, I'd be like, well, Mister Moore, if you don't like people feeling sorry for your character, maybe you shouldn't have made me feel bad for him in the first place. But I'm not that not that sassy. I probably wouldn't be that sassy in front of one of my heroes. So you know. Anyway, it's a weird thing how that works because I've seen a lot of discussion and wildly different interpretations of things, and I'm like, what? Wait a minute, that's not how I see this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it a lot and I'm like, wow, I think you pulled a lot of stuff that isn't there, which is fine. It's totally cool. There's YouTube channels dedicated to that kind of thing where there's this one guy, I can't remember his channel's name, but he'll take video games and it'll be like the hidden philosophy of Silent Hill 2. And you're like, come on, man. It's interesting to watch because again, it's this guy,
I find
he's
those interesting.
noticing.
So I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's noticing patterns and he's assembling something into a convincing argument. You're like, okay, that's kind of cool. I don't know if it's there, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. It's a weird thing. But back to our question. No, I don't generally. Again, it depends, but generally, no. I don't think of theme when it comes to writing things.
Okay.
You're the same way. Never had a story where like, that's an interesting idea. Let's
Well, when I
explore it.
read your book, I'll say, Britain, this is your theme. Or it's either going to be that
I
or it's going to
love
be
I.
Britain, this story has no fucking theme. You need a theme. It's going to be one of those two things.
And I will be very glad when he when you say that because I'm like, hey, if I can't see it, maybe someone else will see it for me, and I'm just
Yeah, I mean that's great. That's what's great about like when I submitted my first these two chapters that I've had for a little while, and like I don't know which one to go with and to kick off the novel. It was really interesting to see people's feedback, to notice the things that uh, I didn't particularly notice, but also it really illuminates that people read for different reasons. Some people read more for information and plot consistency than experience, whereas I'm much more of an experienced writer and reader. And
kind
so
of
it's funny
both.
when it's,
Sometimes I'll
huh?
read a book. I'm kind of both because there's times I'll like sit down and be like, well, this is stupid, like in a story or with character or whatnot.
Yeah, well, I think what I do often is I will, like, somebody commented, I think it was Matt's actually. So at the end of one of the chapters, the guy climbs out of this repair shaft and he has these destroyed gloves. He lost one when he was down in there, and then he just tossed the other destroyed one down into the hole. And there's
Mm-hmm.
subtext there. But Matt's took it like, why did this guy throw his glove down into this hole? Like it's trash. I'm like, because he's not, and it's fine because I think he might be reading for different reasons, or maybe it's my fault where I didn't communicate it enough. But I feel like it's better, and I've read this rule plenty time and time again. It's better to explain less, under explain than over explain. Because when you start over explaining, it feels a little too like, I don't know. And that's probably why my novel is so divisive because I under explain. But
Oh,
I always hear that
you
I'm sure you heard
really?
this too.
I
Like,
should note this.
trust the reader.
I
You
should
know?
note that you really love putting your characters in like tight spaces. Like, so are you claustrophobic or something?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Well, okay. I mean, I'm not, but
Um,
I've noticed that kind. I guess it's not really a motif, but it's just something
yeah. Well,
I think is kind of
I'm
funny.
trying to also create a consistency between the opening chapters, at least thematically or experientially, between one and two. So, just for like a cool little consistent vibe. So that's why they begin that way. But
Yeah, no,
my other
it's
novels aren't claustrophobic.
no, but it's just kind of I just thought that was funny. I didn't really. I don't know
No,
if
it's
it was
cool.
like a like one. I remember one of the chapters that was kind of like what was when like Mia and that like feral boy she was hanging out with was like they're like running around this like I don't even know what it was. It was like some sort of like hole or like a mine shaft or something. I don't know. Or I thought of it kind of looking like a mine shaft or something.
Yeah. Well, you can because
You
I
know
remember
me,
when I
I like
explained
to
it to you.
envision stuff as I'm reading it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's like when buildings and things have fallen together and coagulated, what is it at that point? And so that's kind of what that world was like. It was like just this destructed apocalyptic. I do give you hints of things here and there. But anyway, I don't want to talk about my book the whole time. So we should
um,
talk about more theme.
so going to another question, which this is going to be a bit more of an emphatic answer. Can themes
Mhm.
sometimes get in the way of the narrative? How so? Yes, yes, it
How
can.
so?
I'm
Okay.
gonna. That's an emphatic answer.
Give me your reasoning or an example.
Well, a book that I've often bullied on this channel, I've talked about, Devil All the Time, makes its themes very clear. So, okay, I'll put it this way: if the author stoops to explaining the theme to you or showing you what the theme is, like, well, that could actually be a good thing. How do I better word that? If the author is presenting you the theme in like a very ham-fisted way, if it's like, "Oh, this is what we're talking about," that kills it. That'll kill a book faster than
Hmm.
bad characters.
I agree. That's how I felt Under the Skin was. It was too like, okay, I really see what you're trying to do here, and it sucks. But what is this book?
Oh,
There it is.
yeah, there it is. I didn't want to pull it out, but now it's
Oh,
force my hand. I'm gonna give this away
cool cover
because
though.
yeah, it is a cool cover, but it I don't know. It was one of those books too that like from the first page, it was off. I That doesn't happen a lot to me. And
Wow. The
this book,
first page?
go on a little rant real quick if you don't mind. This
Go
book
for it.
won a Shirley Jackson Award. Are you serious? Are
Wow.
you
So it's
kidding? This
horror?
won a Shirley Jackson Award. I wish I were
Wow.
kidding. And this book might have been the worst book I read last year,
Have
in my
you have
opinion.
you read what are the other reviews like on Goodreads? Is it overly favorable or negative, mixed?
Um, I I've seen a lot of mixed reviews actually, so it's not. Yeah, I've seen some mixed
Mhm.
reviews, so it's not like I was the only one who was like, "This book sucks." But
Should I
there's other.
read it and then we can see if we disagree?
I, Feel free
Or
to.
do you not want to put me through that?
I mean, I don't know if you'll like it, maybe, but I
What
did
if
not.
what if I liked it? That'd be crazy. Then we could have
That would
a
be
heated
hilarious.
discussion about it.
That would be hilarious if if you actually liked it, because I'm just like, wow, Jason likes this. I must be missing something.
Yeah.
But it's just like there's just ham-fisted scenes of the theme just littered throughout it, and I'm just like, oh god.
Hitting you over the head. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also other stuff like the characterization. It didn't feel convincing to me
Okay.
because like from the like first chapter, he's already like because he goes from like bereaved guy to killer. You know, like huh? It's not like a Walter White thing where it kind of builds over time. At
But
least in
not in
my
a
opinion,
convincing way.
wasn't convincing to me. But
Gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah,
no.
that makes sense.
Another
That's
example.
hard. That's a difficult thing to do is
Oh,
when you have a transformation of a character like that to that degree where it's like
oh no,
literally
it's
black to
not
white
easy
or
at
white to
all.
black. It's not easy, and so I could see how it doesn't work for everybody. I see this often in I mean in films when I read books how those kind of characterization moments don't work for me. It's kind of like our discussion about Gone to See the Riverman. Some of those characterization moments didn't work for me, but they work for you, and that's great. That's great. But it's tough. It's tough to do. It's tough to do, and
It is.
it
It
doesn't
is.
work for everybody. So
It's
I think that's the thing to understand is that um, sometimes it works,
yeah,
sometimes it
no, it's
doesn't.
just I don't like how did that win a Shirley Jackson award?
I'm actually. It's funny. The more we talk about it, I'm more interested to read it because I want to see how, like, if I hate it.
I don't know if you'll like it. I've kind of like I said before when we were talking about Gone to See the Riverman. I'm like, dude, I've given up trying to figure out what you like because you're always finding problems with stuff. Even when I'm like, I think Jason will like this, and I'll give it to you, and you're just like, you just kind of shrug.
Well, yeah, I
But
think I think it's because you and I a lot, and we kind of touched on this before, but I think we read for different reasons. I think there's things we get out. Some people, like a lot of fantasy readers, they just love the intricate plots. They love the scheming. They love the world building. Like I don't read for those reasons. Like unless you're giving me like a really interesting character um, moment, or I shouldn't say moment, but progression. I don't care about your plot. I don't care about your world building. Um, but that's not what everybody needs, and so I think that's okay though. That's okay. We all read
yeah,
for different
no,
reasons.
it's. I was gonna ask you about something. No, I forgot. Maybe I'll remember it
Theme?
as
Were
we.
you going to ask me about theme?
Yes, I was going to ask you about theme, but that wasn't
What
it.
question are we on?
But we are on. Can themes sometimes get in the way of the story? And my answer was an emphatic yes. Another
Yes,
example
I
of this.
agree.
Another example of this is a comic called Bitch Planet. Now, you might think, what could be wrong with Bitch Planet? Well, the message is so apparent. And you know what? Here's what I was missing: lack of nuance. If your theme is explored with a lack of nuance, it'll kill your book. That's what Devil All the Time did, and that's what Bitch Planet does. In my
Not the devil all the time. What's the other? What's it called again?
not the Devil All the Time. Devil Takes You Home.
No, that's Donald Ray Pollock.
Yeah, no. The book I'm talking about is this one. Not. Sorry, I've got. I get Devil All the Time and this one mixed up. So
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was correcting because don't talk bad about my buddy Pollock, man.
I haven't
He's
read
gold.
Pollock, so I can't.
He's a golden boy in my
So
book.
I won't comment on that. He does sound like an author I would like though. But
Yeah, I think you'd like it a lot, actually.
but um but
Him.
The Devil Takes You Home
Devil
does
takes
this
you home.
badly.
Well, at least the title was foreshadowing the book, so I'll give it that.
It's but yeah, or Bitch Planet, or oh god, what's another book I can think of? Probably actually that was probably what I was trying to find on my Goodreads. What are some books I hate? Because I generally look for books that I would enjoy. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's what we all do. We're not like, what am I gonna hate?
Yeah,
I'm gonna
exactly.
get one of those. Honestly, it's funny. I can only think of Under the Skin as the only book that really hit me in the head with its theme,
I know
which
you.
is a good thing.
I know
I'm
you
glad I
didn't
haven't read
like.
a bunch of books that way.
I know you didn't like. It was a book I liked. The Only Good Indians. That's it. I know you quit that
Oh
book.
yeah, I couldn't get
Was
through that. I
it
even bought the audiobook and tried to. I said, you know what? Because I had that video
was
up
it
for
the
so
themes of
long,
that
and
book that turned you off, or was it something
no, it
else?
was just the like absolutely nothing happening turned
Oh,
me off. Like a third into the novel, I'm like,
Jason,
yeah, great opening scene, really cool like
he has
parking
to
lot.
build the suspense though.
Yeah, but you gotta give me something along the way, like tease me with these little suspense snacks or something, because it just yeah. And I gave up. I think it was about a third of the way into the novel. I'm like, you know what? And that's when I created my 30% rule, which I think is extremely generous. If a book does not grab me by 30%, I'm done with it. I know Timo on, I think that's how you pronounce his name, on our Discord. He he's a 10% guy.
Oh
So he
wow.
quit this book after 10%,
Oh wow.
and it's a very short book. So he read maybe like 20 pages. So I can see why I can see why anybody would quit this book, honestly. Um,
Um,
I'll save it for my
I
review
know
though.
you like The Handmaid's Tale, but I remember not really liking that book. I do want to
I
reread.
love it.
I
I
want to.
love
I
it.
want to
I think the show
reread.
destroyed it.
I want to reread that book at some point.
You should.
Maybe
It's a great
maybe
great
I'll
book,
change my
and
mind because I did really like one of her other books, Works in Crake. I
oh
like
yeah,
that book a lot.
Margaret Atwood is a damn fine writer. I love her
Oh
work.
no, she's very good.
She's
I
great. Yeah.
remember maybe it was back in my Edgemeister like days or something. I don't know, but
Back when you had the emo bangs, those days.
I'm a little too young for that. Oh, another example of this is his Dark Materials from Philip Pullman. I thought that the themes were really kind of. It sucks
Never read
too,
it.
because that wasn't. It sucks too, because I was really wanting to. I was really wanting to like that, but oh well.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of good things, but never gave it a shot. It's
Or
too YA for me.
or Wizard's First Rule. Haha. No,
Oh, I actually read that book.
you have.
I
What'd you think of
have.
that?
It's I read it when it came out.
Oh,
And I remember so I have this weird thing, and I don't know if it's just me or if it's a lot of people, but like with comic books, I remember I was always like, I gotta find my hero, the one where I want to collect all the books of this one person. I was kind of like that with fantasy writers, where like I got to find my, everybody has their fantasy writer. A good friend of mine, Robert Jordan, was his. He was obsessed with the Wheel of Time series. I had another friend who was obsessed with the Game of
I
Thrones,
mean, it's
A
not for
Song of Fire.
everybody, you know. There's
No, I know. And so I
people
was like,
different
oh
ways.
man, I just want to find my fantasy guy. And I remember Wizard's First Rule came out, the Sword of Truth series, and I picked it up, and I read it, and I remember like I think I was convincing myself I liked it because I
It's
don't
not
think I
good,
really did.
and I'm a
But
pretty hardline fantasy fan. He's not good.
yeah,
Now that's
which
another
is
one
crazy
where
because he's
not.
wildly successful, or was. He was
eh,
wildly successful.
Well, I mean, there's also the fact the guy was not a nice person, but I don't want to talk about that. But the themes in that are very apparent, and not in a very interesting way. There's also the really weird sex content. So I mean, I'm hardly a prude, but Plot Against America. That's another one. I thought the themes were kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
uh, Philip Roth, my arch nemesis. Um, yeah, I don't know if you'd like that. It's kind of like, not a good book. It's another one. Uh, yeah, that was well. I mean, I did read Embassy Town recently. That was kind of a not really that the theme was like smacking you over the head, but it felt like it prioritized theme over the story, which is I'm sure you have opinions on that. But I find that's a common problem with a lot of science fiction.
Yeah. Ted Chiang, I'm looking at you. I wouldn't quite say theme with him. I would more say ideas, which I guess could be argued as one and the same. But with science fiction, especially speculative, like what he
but
writes, it's more about
I've been
here's a
jamming.
concept, here's a
What's that?
concept, and I'm going to wrap a story around it or explore this concept with a story. And so a lot of times that is what was the most important thing to him, not so much the emotional experience. It was just about this. And you know,
But I've been jabbering on like a fool for a few minutes. What do you think? Do you think theme can get in the way of the narrative? I imagine
yeah.
what your answer will be,
Yeah,
but
I named the only book that came to mind was Under the Skin, and
oh,
so it
oh
did.
yeah,
I
that's
think
right.
theme gets in the way of narrative when it, like you said, it leaps out at you. Like with anything while you're reading a story, and it stops you in your tracks in a bad way, where you're kind of
Uh-huh.
like confused or like or bad, what is this? Um, that's when anything's. But anyway, theme, yeah, that stopped me in my tracks in that book because it was just the repetition of it. I think that's a lot. Sometimes you can literally have a character name, speak the theme, and that's I've seen that plenty of times in films and books. But with this one, it was just over and over and over and over,
No, that's
and it
not to say theme being obvious is a bad thing. Like, for instance, there's a comic series, Transmetropolitan, which I covered with my
yeah,
buddy Josh. Go check that out in the comments section. Um, that its themes are very much in your face, but there is also a nuanced exploration of those themes, which is what saves it from being, like Bitch Planet. which is just hitting you over the head with it without really saying anything interesting.
Hmm.
Or this book right here.
Man, we're
Real,
coming full circle.
I'm giving this book away as soon as I. You know what? I'm actually gonna go to the bookstore tomorrow. I'm gonna fucking drop this off. Half price books. I'm not an advocate of burning books or any of that dumb shit. Um, I
You
think
should
if
do
I,
a channel giveaway. Just say, I will
you know
give away
what,
this book, the most
in
hated
October,
book.
you know what? How about in October? I'll give this book away. Like I'll
You
just
should. You should just make a video said, win my most hated book.
win my most hated book.
And that will be clickbait right there.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I might do that.
Do it.
Um, another book. Well, another book where the theme kind of took over for me. Well, Ayn Rand's novels.
Yeah,
Don't forget.
well,
Yeah.
that goes without saying. That goes without saying. I
There's a
haven't read them.
70 page, 70 in Atlas Shrugged of her outlining her philosophy. And I'm just like, oh, and
Yeah.
I tend to give Ayn Rand the benefit of the doubt here. I'm saying that as that kind of person. I don't agree with her ideas, but that's beyond the point. My point is, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't
That's
do
a good
that. I
example of the
remember,
book's theme getting in the way of your story.
yeah, I remember when I was around 20, I had this guy I worked with, and he was really into philosophy, and he had all these ideas, and he was wanting to write books about them. I'm like, you know what? The best way to reach people is through fiction, I think, right? Like,
Mm.
put your philosophies in fiction, like, well, you could even say religion, like L. Ron Hubbard
Oh
and
God.
Ayn Rand, even. But like, so yeah, but then I regret that because then now I'm thinking about people who, like you said, who do that, and it's like, holy shit, like I want to read a story. Yeah, that's fine if your philosophy is in there, but don't just have it hit me over the head. That's when things get, yeah, bad idea.
Yeah, or there's another book I'm looking at on my Goodreads, Grapes of Wrath, does that, but also at the same time, that is not a fun read. And I like
I love
Steinbeck.
that. Yeah, I need to read that book again because that was the book I read it when I was about 17, and it really kind of made me want to read again. Like I didn't really read a lot for years, and when I read that book, I was like, holy shit, like what is this? So
Yeah,
I'll give Steinbeck credit.
yeah. I mean, I love Steinbeck of Mice and Men. It's one of my favorite books ever. But yeah, I wasn't feeling that book. Though the final scene, that's a doozy right there. What's another
Mhm.
book where the theme gets in the way? Hmm, I don't know. It's kind of best I got. Because well, I remember I did the Devil Takes You Home video, and you commented, you're like, oh yeah, there's authors that do this or whatever, and that made me think like, so like, what are some authors you've seen where that's happened, and you just mentioned Under the Skin. I'm a little disappointed.
Under the Skin, but also, and I hate to say this because I love the guy. He's highly influential, but Jeff Vandermeer.
Oh,
I feel like as
he's
his
usually he's
novels have
usually good at
progressed,
exploring the themes.
he is, but again, it's kind of like with Hummingbird Salamander, it's like smashing you over the head over and over and over again. So I felt like with Annihilation, forward, started to get a little bit more with Born, where you're like, okay,
Fucking
I
love
see what you're
Bourne.
doing here. And then finally to this guy. So Dead Astronauts and Born, but then he really he really turns it up to 11 with Hummingbird Salamander.
Well, I
So,
mean like my spicy take is Born is my favorite Vandermeer book. And you're not wrong.
man, that's I'm surprised.
It is. Like, it's a beautiful story about being a parent and having to let go. Like it's like, come on, how can you not love that? Now I know you were kind of like, oh, but it's a blob. I don't fucking care.
Yeah, I think that's the problem is that I never really empathize with the Blob. Um, and that's a tough thing to do. Like I remember that's one of the that's one of the things I like about District 9 is that I actually empathize with these bug-looking things. So that's hard to
God.
do when you
Oh,
are able
that's
to
actually. Thank you for bringing that up. The director of those movies, he does that a lot, especially with Elysium.
Blomkamp, yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, his movies
that
aren't
film
great.
made me physically ill. Elysium.
Wow.
Not
Dang. And
really.
you didn't
I
have
mean that. I
like a
mean that.
bad Chick-fil-A or something that day?
No, I mean that figuratively. But
I know, I'm kidding.
uh, District 9 wasn't too bad though.
No, I like District 9.
Even though
Everything
even
else
though
he's done
the
has
even though
been
the theme
trash though.
wasn't was very like okay, I see what you're doing. Making a new one, Gran Turismo. I'm like, I ain't fucking seeing that movie. Ugh. After
Car
Elysium,
movies. Yeah.
Elysium. Oh my god, you know there's a or Oliver Stone does it a lot. Uh, I would say Wall Street, but Wall Street is saved because Michael J. Fox or not Michael J. Fox, Michael Douglas. That would have been a way different film.
Yeah.
But Michael Douglas's performance was so good in that movie. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll give you a pass this time. I don't know if you are there any movies you can think of where you felt the message
The
got in the
theme
way?
hit me on the head. I would say, what is it called? It was a pretty popular novel. Is it called Where the Crawdad Sings or something like that?
Oh yeah, I heard that. I heard that lady is like under suspicion for like murder. Like it's crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't read the book, but I saw the movie and it had it had kind of crappy critic reviews, but the user reviews were really high. I was like, you know what? I'll check it out. Garbage. The critics were right. Yeah, they were basically it was so obvious what they were trying to push in your face or down your throat thematically. So I don't know the writer or the director, but that movie definitely stuck with me in that way.
hmm Oh god, I would say Spike Lee, but I haven't seen a lot of Spike Lee's movies. But the ones I have seen, yeah, he's not very well. It's like I said, subtle is kind of the wrong word. It's more like a lack of nuance is what bugs me more than just like subtle.
Yeah,
Because
you betcha that.
yeah, yeah, it's not because it's like if you don't explore it with a level of like this isn't just a
Nuance.
black yes this isn't just a black and white thing, then it's like I'm not interested in this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like for an example, a good example I love to use a game that we both love how theme is explored through character. Last of Us Part One,
Mm-hmm. Great, great game.
and it shows all the ways people react to it talks about people loving each other and what you're willing to do for someone that you love.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see Bill, who's basically so destroyed by losing love, he's basically become this crazy hermit. And like you see Henry and Sam, they're kind of too much, and then they both die. And then with Joel and Ellie, you see kind of the complications of that. They find a balance, one might say, except Joel murders a lot of people.
But it's a video game, so there you
Yeah,
go.
no. Yeah. You play Call of Duty. I mean, I'm playing Red
Yep.
Dead 2 again right now, and that's it's funny. I think you would really enjoy Red Dead Redemption.
I actually have it. I
Red Dead
never played it,
Redemption
but I
2.
have it. Yep.
Like it's a
I played
long
the first
game,
one too.
but the story in that is just so good. But yeah, no. You probably put it in a better way than I could because I'm just jabbering on here. But yeah, I find the best example for me, the first one I think of is the first Last of Us game with, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I think that's a great way to explore a theme and do it right without it feeling like it's in your face.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great example.
Yeah, because it shows you like the ups and downs of like, oh,
Hmm.
rejecting love outright is not a good thing, but at the same time, like when you like Henry babies his brother, that's not a great thing either.
Yeah.
It's like love takes trust, and well, we already did a discussion on The Last of Us. I don't want to pull that. I don't want to pull that rabbit out of the hat again.
So what's our next question? Are we out?
How many themes are too many?
How many themes are too many? Wow. Can we put a number on it? I would say any more than probably two,
I
maybe more than
I
two,
don't know, man.
maybe more than two. Yeah, because I try to think that if you have too many themes, your story's going to start to feel like
What the
what are they
fuck is he
trying to
trying to
say
go?
here?
Yeah,
Like what are they?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Now there are
yeah.
books
So
where,
I.
like I mentioned earlier, the themes aren't always as apparent because there is so much going on.
Mhm.
Watchmen is one I like to pick on a lot. Now, not saying it's bad. It's a great comic, but there are a lot of themes in there, and there it's kind of hard to figure out what he's trying to say.
That's
Sometimes
true.
I don't know if you
Yeah,
have
I'd
a
agree with
similar
that.
experience, but
Uh, yeah. I mean, and I guess that's a good way to tackle something. So sometimes when you're reading a book or a comic or watching a movie, and it does feel like you're getting hit at all angles. Maybe that is the product of too many themes. I don't know.
yeah. Or there's some stuff out there that really is broad with what it's trying to say, which can
Yeah,
sometimes I can see how that might alienate people.
yeah.
Like oh, who does this? Hmm. 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 Can't think of one at the moment. Are there books or anything that you've ever encountered where you're like, God, what is going on here? So many themes. I think this was one of the questions you came up with.
uh, no. I mean, none that come to mind that have like too many. I think Watchmen though. You brought that up, and that's a good example because while you're reading that book, it's yeah, it feels like you're going down one path and then you go down another and then another and another. You're like, wait a minute, what? I can't orient myself here.
It's one
Like,
of those it's one of those weird things where I'm kind of impressed with how much they put into it, and then Moran Gibbons, just like all
mhm.
these like the doomsday clock, and the theme or the motif with the clock, or the motif with the smiley face, or themes about the Cold War and nuclear annihilation. But there's a
Well, I
lot of
think,
that in there. But there's a downside where a lot of that where you're just like, okay, what is he saying though? Again,
well,
don't
I
get me
think,
wrong.
I think a
Watchmen's a
great,
great story.
yeah, I think what's great about Watchmen though too is I mentioned this earlier, but sometimes themes are stated literally, and in fact, one of the themes is in that who watches the Watchmen. That is a thematic statement.
Yeah, yeah, no,
And
that's
it's
that's exactly
literally
right.
like the tagline of the fucking comic. So I think that's cool, right? I mean, it's in your face,
But he
but it
throws a bunch of
works.
other stuff at you, like, oh,
Yeah,
here's
yeah. Go
ignore
look over
that.
here. Yeah,
It's like it's
yeah,
like where it's like he has like a what are those fucking things called? Those laser pointers, and we're just over there looking at
yeah.
it. Oh man, but yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, that's kind of the main gist of that book. It kind of because yeah, have you ever noted this? Kind of a little side question, but do you think people think too deeply about themes?
Yes, yes. I
I'm
think they
glad you
think
said
not
that
only,
because I do too.
yeah, not only too deeply, but I think that maybe they're, and again, this is fair because I said earlier as well that watching a film or reading a book is a subjective experience, so you're going to be pulling stuff from that. But sometimes people reach a little bit too far, and you're like, really, man? I don't. I think you're off base here. But yeah, I agree. Yes,
Yeah, no, it's
to the point
yeah.
where it usually happens when I think people are giving too much credit to something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, really? No, no, no. You're giving this too much credit because I don't see that whatsoever. But anyway,
So, like, do you feel that way about, the Star Wars prequels?
the Star Wars, what?
I know a lot of it's funny because when it comes to the Star Wars prequels and how bad the sequel films were, now there's people who are
Oh,
like actually like, oh wait, maybe these prequel movies aren't that bad. They're still
yeah,
pretty
I saw the
stupid, but
prequels. Yeah, not even close to the original trilogy.
I agree.
But I think it's a great example of when a director, a creator, a writer of any kind has too much power. I think there's a lot to be said with for constraints. Like, when George Lucas first started the Star Wars stuff, it wasn't this massive big budget. Like they had to be creative and like guerrilla filmmaking almost, cut a lot of corners. And I think a lot of times that's when the best creative work happens. Whereas, when the prequels were out, the dude was like a billionaire probably by then, and just he could do whatever he wanted. And he had this ego, like his success had gone to his head, and it destroyed the franchise, in my opinion. But yeah, a lot of people who grew up with that series, like yourself, probably love it.
Hmm.
So that's another argument is that, well, I grew up with the originals, and that's why I like it. That's what a lot of people say. Like you respect the stuff that
Well,
you
I did
experienced
too.
as a child.
They're also good.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I don't know.
It's really frustrating. I'm like, it shouldn't be that hard, people. Like, come on. Anyway, how many themes are too many? Oh God, like I never even thought of this before, or not, haven't thought of it before. But I don't think about this. I don't know if I thought about. But if it's like a book where it's kind of like, I'll admit, I'll be really impressed with a book like Watchmen if it can put a bunch of themes in there and it works still. I'm like, how? But it's like, oh God, it's the last like chunker I read. Good lord. That's why I'm kind of nervous about reading like, I don't know, uh, these like big literary novels because it's like, are they just gonna throw a bunch of themes at me and I'm gonna be like, what the fuck? That's why I'm
Like
kind of
Moby
nervous
Dick or
about.
something.
Yeah. What'd you say?
Like Moby Dick.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's a great example, actually. Oh my man. Oh lord. Yeah, that book is just. Oh. Or actually, that's funny you bring that up. Blood Meridian does a similar thing.
Yeah, I could see that. That is a Blood Meridian is a lot. It's just a lot.
Yeah. It's funny. I was going a little side tangent again here, but um, Matt from Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews did a review of Blood Meridian, and he absolutely just fucking destroyed it. And I can see why because it's not a pleasant book by
He
any means.
destroyed it how? Like he
No, I
said
mean
how it
he
was
just
full of
gave it a
shit, or
no, he just gave it a really he just gave it a bad or not a bad review.
he
Well,
he
he didn't like it. I'll put it that way.
he didn't like it. Okay.
He kind of ripped into
Okay.
it. And it's like if you ever read one of those books that you really like, and you can kind of get why people might not like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Like, is there a book you can think of at the moment that would be like that?
That I really liked, and I can understand why someone wouldn't like it.
Yeah,
Um,
your books don't
I mean,
count.
I what?
Your books don't count.
Books don't count?
I said your
Sort.
books don't count.
Oh, my. um, nice one there. Uh, well, I hate to keep going back to Jeff Vandermeer, but I think Annihilation, like the Southern Reach, I
Oh,
could understand Lovecraft. I can understand why people don't
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Um,
Oh
um,
man, I didn't even think of Lovecraft.
Cormac McCarthy, like anything Cormac McCarthy,
Yeah, that's true.
I could understand why someone wouldn't like it. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it doesn't
I'd say
even
those are
use
some.
like proper punctuation or syntax or anything like
Even
that.
even aside from that, like it's an experience reading Cormac McCarthy, and that
Also,
experience is not for
it's
everybody.
difficult at times.
It's difficult. It's difficult. Like I remember a great example. I saw No Country for Old Men in the theater. This woman, stranger, was sitting next to me, and right as the lights came on, she looked over at me and she said, "Wow, that was a stinker, huh?" And I was captivated by the film. Like I loved it.
My dad does that all the time. Like, or
And
be at a movie and
so
be like, "Ah, what? That was weird," or something like
yeah, and I'm like, okay, this is not for you. You don't get what's happening here, and that's fine. Go watch the Barbie movie or something, you know.
that.
But
Actually, I heard that's pretty good.
um,
Probably not gonna see it though.
yeah, so that's what I mean. Is like
That's
it's
funny.
just
That's thinking about that. Nolan sometimes does that.
Nolan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he lets theme get in the way.
Well, like how so? Which movie would you say?
Tenant,
Tenet?
without a doubt.
Ah, man, yeah, I didn't hear what they were saying half the time, so it was difficult to
Yeah.
convey the theme to me or to digest the theme.
Or, well, I mean, you probably would say idea, but yeah, there's a lot of like science fiction out there. Like a lot of the early guys, Asimov is terrible at
Yeah.
it. For instance,
It's these guys who like are firmly seated in science and are fascinated by science. And there's even is it Greg Bear? Was he a physicist? Somebody was. I know there are science fiction writers out there who are actually scientists like Asimov, and yeah, it gets in the way
Andy
because
Weir
there
is like an
are
engineer. That's
yeah they're
pretty good.
exploring. I think a great example too is Andy Weir.
I
So
like Andy Weir
he was
though.
a you like Andy Weir?
Yeah, like it's not like, well, I've only read one of his books, and that was The Martian,
Yeah,
and
I've only read The Martian. I feel like I was the only person who didn't like it.
I guess you are, because I it's no
Yeah, I
Vandermeer, but I liked it.
I, I just yeah I didn't care. I won't get into why, but yeah, he's one of those guys who is so fixated on the science of it, and I think that's what people liked a lot about it. They liked the authenticity of it, the accuracy. But I don't read stories for that reason. If I wanted to learn about
It's also
science,
just a
I'd read a
good
fucking science
survival
book.
thriller, too.
What?
I said it's also just a good survival thriller as well.
Kinda, but I would argue that the way the information was given to us through journal entries stifles suspense,
Yeah,
and
it
that
is
was my
done that
biggest
sort of, what do they call that? Epistolary,
epistolary,
epistolary.
epistolary,
Yeah,
and
I don't
it
I don't always
stifled
love that
suspense for me because I
style.
was like, oh, well, I mean, you could argue that the the signal might end or the journal entries might end, but like they probably won't, and he probably gets out of this, and I don't know. So anything that happened to him along the way, I'm like, he's gonna get out of it. Who gives a shit? There's no suspense because I know what's gonna happen next. He's gonna get out of it, and I think that was my biggest problem with the book. I know I said I wasn't gonna get into it, but
I
there you
would
go.
say you should just like try and get caught up in the moment, but then you're always bitching at me to do that. So I guess we just have different views of doing that. Because you're always like, I like being in the experience with the characters. And I'm all like, well, you don't like The Martian.
But again, it's because the way the story was told to us, it killed any suspense, you know? And plus, like I said, I don't have any interest in how to grow potatoes on Mars. So I was kind of bored with that stuff. I was bored with the experience. Hey, I know I'm a minority on that.
But
I get it. Lots of
but
people. I don't think I've ever talked to anybody else who didn't like it.
um, it's no Vandermeer, of course, but I do like Andy Weir. Fine. I wouldn't.
I hear his other books really illuminate his shortcomings as a writer,
Yeah,
not like a
yeah. I
science
heard
guy.
Artemis wasn't that good, and I heard Project Hail Mary was good, but it's like The Martian. So I'm like, okay.
That's what I mean. He's got one story in him. He's got one character voice in him, and that's it. I've heard every one of his characters are wisecracking whatevers, and
You
it's
just don't
like
like wisecracking characters. Just you don't
I
like
don't
them.
mind it. Just don't do it in every one of your
You
books,
just
you know?
you
Like,
just you just don't like smart ass characters. I get it. You weren't a Han Solo fan growing up.
oh no, I love Han Solo. I love Han Solo. In fact, the book I'm writing right now is a wisecracking character in it. So it's not that. It's just that like every single character in your books can't be the
Oh,
same
so you're not a Joss
thing.
Whedon fan because a lot of
Oh
his
my
characters are.
God. Joss Whedon. The worst, the absolute worst. Oh my God.
Yeah, a lot of his
He's
characters are
he's one of those
kind of.
writers. I'm like, how do people like this motherfucker? And I'm you know what? I'm glad he turned out to be an absolute biggest piece of shit because now I can also talk shit about his writing and it's okay because they're not going to defend this jerk, right? They're not going to defend this guy who's been like doing who knows what, you know.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
there's separating the art from the artist, but I don't want to get into that. That's a conversation for another time.
too soon though. It's too soon.
It's too soon for sure. But how many themes are too many? God, I don't know. It's
Three.
three. Okay, you know what? I'll agree with you. Three.
I'm gonna say three. I don't know. I'm
Three.
just pulling on my
Fine.
ass. I'm just thinking because like when there's too many, it starts to, it gets confusing. It's difficult for you to get your bearings in a story and know what's happening unless it's like a 1,000-page novel. Um, so I'm just gonna say three is too many.
Um, last question here we got here for tonight.
Yeah. Last question.
Should theme be present in both character and theme? Is one better
Wait,
than
you
the
could have
other?
done a drum roll right now. You could
Oh.
literally do a drum roll. No, I mean like you have a drum set behind you.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Totally blanked my mind on that. But well, okay. I'll let you go first since I've been kind of jabbering on throughout this whole thing. What do you think? You think theme should be present? Do you think theme? It says should theme be present in both character and theme. I should have written that better. But is
Oh no,
one
that's
better
that's
than the other?
I would say it doesn't have to be. I will give, even though I didn't care for the book that much, Joe Abercrombie, his latest, or well, latest trilogy, first one, A Little Hatred. The theme was present in both the plot and the characters, so it was about change. So to me, the biggest theme I got out of that was change, and that the world is changing. So that was
Mm-hmm.
a big part of the narrative. Industrialization is hitting the circle of the world, and then also all of the protagonists are kind of the young up and coming nobles and leaders who are trying to take the mantle from the ones that came before them. So I think that really helped that novel because it was cool to see like in the actual world building and plot and the characterization, you had that consistent theme. But and that's when I gave you that question, that's the book that came to mind.
Oh,
But I would say it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. I would say if you had to pick one, it would probably be character because I think that's how we're experiencing the story.
well, yeah.
But I think
I
it's
tend to
gonna,
put. I tend to think more. You're probably gonna snicker at this in disbelief, but I do when I at least when I'm writing. And when I read, it's kind of a different thing. But when I'm writing, I generally think about character and story first, and like
yeah,
how the plot's gonna move, which is one of the things I have a hard time with. But I'm near the end of my draft right now, so I'm doing pretty good. I'm sort of kind of art. I'm kind of combining architect and gardener at the moment. I don't know.
that's
Next
how I
one's
am pretty
gonna
much.
next one's gonna be a doozy though when I get to that one because it's gonna be about some very heartwarming subjects like human trafficking.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding. That is
Trying to
not. That is
you're trying to pull a Jim Caviezel right now or what?
that's God. Why? I was just like, God, when they put out that movie, I was just like, oh God, I'm gonna put out this book. They're gonna think I'm some quantum
Yeah.
conspiracy nut job. I just wanted to write about this subject, but I want to do research first before I fucking touch that. So
Hmm.
yeah, it might take a
Good
while for
idea.
the sequel of this book I'm doing right now to come out. So I'm gonna work on a western instead. It's gonna be great.
Giddy up.
Yeah, but should theme be present in both character and theme? Is one better than the other? I mean, I'm always an advocate of theme through character. So you know, now sometimes the theme can kind of take over at times, but or even the character will take over sometimes. It doesn't really. have to be a black. It's not a black and white thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think it is. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much said it. I would say no. It's cool if it is, and if you had to pick one, I would say character for obvious reasons. But
Fair
yeah,
enough. Yeah, I
that's a
would agree.
short
I would
answer.
agree with that. At the same time, like I had a friend of mine who I talked to a while back, and he was like, "Well, how do you get people to debate about the books that you're writing?" And he basically said, and he said, and I quote, he said, "Clarity." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Well, know what you care about." And I'm like, "Okay." So now I'm writing this book, and I'm like, "Well, do I know what I care about?" And I'm like, "Well, shit. Why am I writing that?" I will admit I am proud of the thing I'm writing right now. At least that I'm gonna be done with it soon. Or well,
Well,
done with the
first
first
draft.
draft.
When are you gonna send it out to people to check out? Like just as like a beta read?
Uh well, when I'm done with
You,
it, I'm probably gonna look it over because there are times I was writing, I'm like, God, this ain't feeling right. But probably not too long because you know, I want people to read this. you know, be like, here's my gift to the world. Something like that. Because there's some days I'm like, it's flowing really nicely, and then there's other days I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Yeah, so I don't know if you've had those, but
oh God, I would say writing. Somebody
I
else
was
said this
reading
too.
your first chapter the other day, and I was feeling so self conscious. I was just like, good lord, he's doing
What do
all
you
these
mean?
things. I was reading the first chapter of that book you were showing. It's the one with Miles,
Yeah,
Gold
Miles.
Mine.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you're my boy, so I'm gonna read your book.
Hey,
And
it's only one chapter.
well, I'm
Well,
gonna read your
technically two,
chapter, I
but
should say.
yeah.
I read it. I'm like, oh god, this guy has way better flow than I do. Or maybe because I don't know. Maybe it's just I have a really bad imposter syndrome or something. Because I'm like, oh
Well,
god,
I parsed those chapters a few times before I sent them over because the one thing as advice when you send stuff out, you'll notice that unless if it's not pretty polished, you'll get a lot of feedback that you don't want. So you'll potentially get unless you explicitly tell people, and even if you do that, you probably will get this feedback. So a lot of times you'll send out like a really rough draft. It's like, hey, this is a draft one. I just want to get a sense of how does it make you feel? Does it feel like you're in the scene? Does it feel convincing in any way? And then you'll inevitably get back feedback like, oh, your grammar's bad here. You misspelled this word. And you're like, I didn't ask for any of that. And so that's why I would say my advice would be to try to be as happy with the draft as you can be before
I'm
you have
mostly
someone else
happy
read
with
it.
what I got, but there's some other stuff I'm
Okay.
like, like
Okay.
for instance, like I remember I sent you like the first chapter, and you were just kind of like, what the hell? And I
Well,
might
it was more I misinterpreted the setting.
Yeah, so I might
I
I
thought it was
might
urban
like
fantasy.
I might change like some words here and there to like kind of go with like lingo cuz I'm trying to capture this particular feel. But aside
Hmm.
from that, I'm mostly good with what I got. I'm just happy I
Okay.
wrote it cuz I mean, let me tell you what stopped me for so long was just like, oh shit. I'm like cuz I was always like cuz like I'm one of those guys who nitpicks stuff.
Oh man, you're looking at another one right now. Tell me about it.
but then my friend
That's why I don't kick out a lot of books. So,
But then my friend just kind of gave me the kick, and he just said, just write it. And
yeah,
then when
let's
you're
write it.
done writing it, then you can nitpick the shit out of it. I'm like, you know what? That was so freeing. Even though he did kind of bully me into writing the book, but it was such a freeing thing. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna write it, and we'll just see where it goes.
I wish I could do that. I forced myself to do that on NaNoWriMo, but I can't do it. I'm so fixated on the feeling of the writing as I'm going into it that I inevitably self-edit a lot. So, but yeah, I would also
I'm not saying that's
recommend like kind of
wrong,
like
but it certainly held me back. And No.
Yeah, that's great. I would also recommend, like what Matt's did, is rather than giving the entire book to somebody, because that is a hell of an undertaking,
Yeah,
is
no, I
that's
was
kind of
gonna
why
have.
you have
That's
like
also one of the
five
things.
chapters, you
Yeah,
know?
that's one of the things I was kind of. I'm like, do I really want to send the whole thing out? Because I really don't want to put people through that effort. Like, it's not a long book. It should be around
Well,
that
send it out in
longest.
pieces. Just send like, hey, here's the first here's act 1 or whatever. And because it is a lot, when you
I could
dump
send like the
like a
first 5 or
500,
10 chapters, maybe
how
5.
many how many words is it?
Almost 80,000 right now.
Yeah, that's a hell of a commitment to ask someone to read an entire book. And so I
Yes.
think you're going to, I would recommend, yeah, piecemealing it out so you're not
Yeah.
overwhelming people. Yeah. Unless you have somebody who is like chomping at the bit right now, like that, and maybe they'll read the entire thing, but
No, not yet. But anyways, going back. But should theme be present in both character and theme? Again, I really hate how I wrote that. Or
character and
was that?
plot.
Or oh, character and plot. My bad. What's up? This is
Because
grammar
theme should
today.
be present in theme, of course.
Yeah, of course. Should theme be present in both character and plot? Is one better than the other? But yeah, my kind of thing on that is, yeah, no, well, I don't know if it has to be, but it's a good way to enhance your book and have like, oh yeah, this is what it's talking about, because I think every book is saying something. That's kind of my thesis. Even if
Hopefully.
it's even if it's something like, oh man, what is the most like popcorn entertainment thing I can think of? Okay, let's say like Spider-Man. There is themes in Spider-Man, and it is saying something about whatever.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Or maybe Spider-Man's not a good example. Maybe like Doc Savage or the Shadow if you want to go real way back. But like I really do think every book is trying to say something, or every piece of art is trying to say something. Now I won't talk about actual art like in a museum because I'm not it's not my thing. But um, but I do think like every book or video game or whatever is trying to say something. Well, with video games that might be a little complicated, but that's kind of my thesis. I don't know what you think, but
I think we talked about this earlier. My dogs are howling, so
more displeased readers, I guess. But yeah, no. The point I think is that every book is trying to say something. That's kind of what I think about when I'm reading. I don't know if you think the same thing. I don't know if you think that. I don't know if you think I'm
they're
on
still
something.
going.
Yeah, if I'm on those inherent vice drugs or something. But
Yeah. No, I
um,
don't think every book is trying to say something.
you don't think
I think
every
there's
book is
plenty.
trying to
I,
say
I think there's
something?
plenty of books out there that are just trying to tell a plot, or have an interesting plot. That's it.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to disagree on. I don't know. I
Yeah, well, that's great. We should disagree.
yeah. But like,
Cool,
what?
man.
Okay, I guess I'll ask this. Why do you think like not every book says anything?
Um, because I think that certain authors value to tell like a fun or engaging plot and not necessarily have a thematic foundation in mind.
Like,
I
are
think
there
that just
authors you can
certain
think
certain
of?
certain writers weigh, they hold more importance in one thing versus the
Mm,
other. And the ones that are like, "Ooh, I need to tell this really intricate, compelling," like the Da Vinci Code with Dan Brown. Like,
oh
I don't
God.
really think there's much. He's not trying to say anything with that book, right? He's trying to create a page turner, something that
Yeah,
you'll
we say
enjoy
that
and
about
then throw it
Jack
away. And
Reacher, kind of ducktailing
yeah,
back to
yeah,
Jack Reacher. Like,
I don't
Jack,
think Lee Child's trying to really say anything with his books.
well, I don't know. I I disagree with that. Like, but like, I thought you were gonna say like Brandon Sanderson or something, because I've known you kind of.
No, I would say Brandon Sanderson probably has themes.
Oh.
The books I've been able to get through of his, yeah, there's some thematic stuff there, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's because like when I think of stuff that's like not really saying anything, even though I think all books are trying to say something, or whatever. It could just be me thinking too deeply, like we were talking about earlier. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, maybe
Cool.
Dan or like James Patterson or something. I don't know. Talking about authors I really don't like now, but but oh well. I think
Well,
that's
I
it
think
though.
yeah, I think we cleared. I think we exhausted themes, so it was a good chat, man.
Yeah, no, that was
Enjoyed it.
fun. Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to go right in like 15 minutes, so it's gonna be
All right. Well, good luck to you.
all right. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah.
If you want to share your stuff real quick before we
Oh,
go.
yeah, yeah, sure. You can find me at YouTube, Jason Fuhrman, jasonfuhrman.com, Amazon, Jason Fuhrman. Just Google me, you'll find me. Yeah, talk about books clearly, writing clearly.
Yep.
But yeah, man, thanks for having me on.
All right, no problem. You can find me on Twitter, and Discord, and all that fun stuff. I'm on Letterboxd and Goodreads too. I write reviews on there. Fun stuff. Anyway, take care, everyone. I will see you guys later. Again, thank you, Jason.
Thank you.